from Studio X at the brand new KNKX Seattle studios overlooking Elliott Bay. I'm Abe Beeson with an exclusive KNKX studio session performance with the Emmet Cohen Trio. Recently named Pianist of the Year by the Jazz Journalists of America, Mr. Cohen's been a good friend of the station since his first session in 2018, returning the next year and performing a virtual session with Christian McBride's Tip City Trio in 2021. Impressively, Cohen made the very most of the pandemic closures with streaming videos of concerts in its New York living room, featuring some of that city's top musicians. These live at Emmett's Place performances have been viewed millions of times. Now back on the road, Emmet Cohen's celebrating his album last year, his 10th release Uptown in Orbit, and also looking forward to tours of Canada and Europe and another album on the horizon. Featuring Phillip Norris and Kyle Poole at the bass and drums, here's the Emmet Cohen Trio with the Surrey with the Fringe on top.
looking for after. So that was a course from the musical Oklahoma called Surrey with the Fringe on top. This is an original composition called Spillin the Tea.
Emmet, it's great to have you back in Seattle and great to have you in our new Studio X here at KNKX. There have been a lot of changes in the world here at the radio station and in your life as well. We haven't seen you in person at the radio station since pre-pandemic when you had short hair. And this is, I think, the fourth bass player we've seen you with as well, with studio sessions from Russell Hall to Yasushi Nakamura. You were with Christian McBride's Tip City. Tell us a little bit about Phillip Norris.
Wow, well, he's in good company with those other three bassists. Phil is, well, first of all, it's great to be back, and thank you for having us, Abe. It's always wonderful to speak with you, and appreciate all the work you've done during the pandemic to bring joy to people's lives through the radio and on the airwaves. You know, radio is one of the only things we did have in that time that was kind of live and in the moment. And it's always great to be here in KNKX, tremendous family of musicians, and I think people all over the world have seen these videos, so, you know, it's wonderful to come in and lay something down for you guys with Kyle Poole and Phillip Norris. And I'll tell you about Phillip Norris. He comes from Raleigh, North Carolina, and he's just ascending into the premier class of working bass players in the world. He's been on the last 2 months, barely a day off, a week in Europe with Wynton Marsalis, a couple weeks in South America with Joshua Redman. He was in Seattle 2 weeks ago with David Sanborn, and he's, of course, out here with us and playing with his man Julius Rodriguez on his one free day in New York at the Blue Note, and, you know, he's just doing tremendous things. And I think, you know, more than just a wonderful bass player, he's also salt of the earth human being. And when you play with someone who's for real in the life aspect, when it gets to the music, it's real there too. And I think no matter what style of jazz or what style of music it is, I think people have realized that Phillip Norris is the next great bass player of our time.
Yeah, he's one to watch. Of course, your friend Kyle Poole has been a part of your band for years and years, and a neighbor of yours in New York, and part of was one of the big changes you had during the pandemic, live from Emmet's place. Can you tell us how that first started going?
Sure. So we were in New York, and we got a call from this promoter named Derek Kwan, and he helped Wynton start Jazz at Lincoln Center back in the day. He's been involved in jazz forever and loved the music. And he called me and he said, "Hey man, you guys were supposed to play March 22nd at University of Kansas, where he is the artistic director, Lawrence, Kansas." And he said, "You know, obviously you're not going to be able to do this gig, but we want to just give you the full fee because we want to support musicians. We know what a hard time it's going to be." I said, "Damn, $2,000 to just do something from the living room?"
More of that, please.
I said, "Russell, I was like, Russell, Kyle, you want to do this?" I said, "Yeah, sure. We got nothing going on." I said, "Well, since we're getting paid that much, we should probably put on a suit and tie." So we put on a suit and tie and played that first gig on an iPhone, going live on Facebook, leaned against a stack of books, and just tried to do something where we connected with people on the airwaves, and we were talking to people and reading the comments, and just tried to make it about coming together. And it was successful in that it got 40,000 views or something like that, and also that people seemed to really, it seemed to distract them or take them out of the hardship and the uncertainty in that time for just a moment. So we said, when should we do this again? And it ended up being the following week. And we have done 108 of those as of this recording.
And one of the really, I think, exciting things about it was not only were jazz fans excited to see some live music, even if it was on the laptop somewhere from New York, you were also bringing together the musicians of New York to come together and providing the community that I know that a lot of musicians really was painful for them to lose the hang and just be able to be with their friends.
Yeah, and the interesting thing was that we were based in Harlem. And I think Harlem has a really intensely high concentration of artists, musicians, thinkers, civil rights activists, historically since the Roaring '20s of last century. And so we were doing this rent party and started inviting, people in the community. And it was almost like during Prohibition when people weren't allowed to drink or gather. Then here we are 100 years later, we're not allowed to gather and get together in public spaces, and ended up, having our own thing. And I think a lot of the musicians said when they came, it was the first time they'd played with other musicians in person in 6 or 8 months or something like that, and to be able to pay them to do it, it was a necessary thing at the time.
Now you're able to do that, I think maybe one a month of live at Emmett's Place because you're busy and back out and playing in clubs and touring. How has that been? What was your first tour?
And the neighbors hate it.
And the neighbors hated it.
So between those two reasons, that's the most frequently asked question. How do the neighbors feel about the
They're more patient than most, I would guess.
They understand, but they don't like it.
But getting out on the road, a relief to them, and I'm sure a relief to you. Do you remember your first tour, your first time leaving town again?
Yeah, we have an agent, kind of a slick Italian man named Luigi. He called me up and he said, he does stuff in Europe, and Luigi said, "Hey man, Italy just passed a temporary allowance for people to come in to Italy for 5 days, and you have to leave within 5 days of getting there." He's like, "I don't understand this rule. It doesn't really make any sense, but we should take advantage of the loophole if you want and you feel comfortable. So all we have to do is go to Italy, play a couple shows there, say we'll leave within 5 days, which we've got this gig in Vienna, Austria. We'll show them the contract. Everything's planned out." I said, "Okay, sounds good." And, it was a huge risk. We could have been turned away at the border and sent back to New York or, whatever. But we were in that moment of trying to see if we could bring the music to people, because that's very important to us. And so we ended up doing that first tour in Europe. I think it was October or November 2020, and we were kind of in Europe on the ground, driving to all the places because we didn't want to fly within the country. So we were doing 10-hour drives to get to the next gig and stuff like that. So that was like the first time getting back, and everyone was outdoors, and we had masks on, and it was a special time of like figuring out, okay, how do we get through this?
And you're going to be leaving Seattle and heading off to tour all the great Canadian jazz festivals and then off back to Europe again with a couple of recent trio albums in your back pocket. And I wonder if the Masters series is still ongoing. You've done some great records with the legends of jazz like Benny Golson and Ron Carter and others. And I think maybe a Houston person coming up.
I know. I've been leaking some information on Instagram and Facebook and social media and stuff about that. For those of you who don't know, there's a series I have ongoing called Masters Legacy Series, and we've done four records. And the series is really a sequence of records, live performances and interviews. And so the live aspect is a big part of what the Masters Legacy Series is, but it's basically about bringing the youngest generation, our generation, close to the jazz master, the oldest generation, and trying to provide a forum for the interaction and see what happens both ways, not just like mentor to mentee, but also the affirmation and the vitality and all that gets passed up to the older generation. And we forged a fantastic relationship with 88-year-old jazz musician and soulful human being, Houston person, and he's been everywhere and done everything and played with everyone. And we have this project that we've been playing with him for quite some time. And we went to Van Gelder's recording studio, Rudy Van Gelder's in Englewood, New Jersey, which is one of the historic places to record. I had never been there. Wow. Houston's recorded like 50 albums there, and we did a record date there, so that should be out any time in this fourth quarter coming up. So definitely look out for it.
Yeah, that's got to be a powerful phrase. I'm with Houston person, so I'm coming in. Emmet, I do a lot of work with school of jazz kids, high school jazz kids, and I'm always asking them, who's your favorite modern musician? Because a lot of them play some of the classic jazz and big band stuff, and one of their favorite modern musicians is Emmet Cohen, which is one of my favorite answers because I really appreciate the way you carry a lot of the jazz tradition in your sound, and yet it's still very modern. I wonder if you can talk about how you balance that.
Well, it's funny to realize our market segment, first of all, is like it's 60 to 80-year-olds, and then 15 to 25-year-olds, people that have like already had a family and their children are out of the nest, and now jazz students who have the time to kind of like watch us on YouTube and stuff. So that's funny that you say that, but it's art is forever modern, I think, and there's a lot of ways that we have learned to separate and segregate all the things that go on. But really, when you think about Bud Powell or Art Tatum or Louis Armstrong or Miles Davis or Coltrane or any of the true geniuses of music, you realize that what they're doing is way more modern than anything that is going on now. In a way, it's like, you're not going to find a painter now that's out painting Picasso. It just doesn't happen like that. Someone can do something different and someone can be influenced by them and move it forward in their way. But I think coming to that realization with my group of friends like Kyle Poole and Phillip Norris and Russell Hall, Evan Sherman and Yasushi Nakamura, Brian Carter, Joe Saylor, Benny Benack, Ruben Fox, Michael Mwenzo, Veronica Swift, Samara Joy. These are musicians, and I only named just a handful of them. But you can see, all the people that we've had on the show. Those are people that generally feel the same way as we do. It's less about deciding should we play this modern music or old music. It's like, no, we're just going to play what we love, and we're gonna incorporate everything that we hear and that means something to us. We're gonna make that part of what we do and try to use that to improvise, try to use that to play together, and try to use that to affect and uplift people who come to hear us play.
And you said something interesting in there where you're talking about kids are finding you online. A lot of your music live at Emmet's place, I mean, it's not an album, but it might as well be an album. That's content. That's jazz performances, recordings that are just as vital as a record that you might get from the 50s or the 70s or something. And I wonder if that affects the way you're thinking about recording music and making records.
I think there are just many ways to release music these days, and we're always looking for new creative ways to just reach audience members and touch them. And I think that's the most important thing. So now we back in the day, there was only vinyl records, and they had to print. You had to print vinyls, and if you wanted to hear a certain song, you had to go find that record. I mean, I didn't live in that time. I lived I came up in the Napster time, where you would try to illegally pirate something that you heard about, or I would type a search in, and it would, I remember typing Herbie Hancock, and I found some rare tracks of him playing duo with Oscar Peterson, and I thought I was on a landmine of never heard before concerts that people bootleg. And now it's like YouTube. There's more stuff on YouTube of your favorite artists than you'd ever be able to watch in your entire life. And so now it's more about filtering. Okay, how do we find the right stuff? So music is just omnipresent everywhere, and we release little things on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, and TikTok is one of the most fertile places for discovering new artists. I'm not a total expert at TikTok. But people release music on there, but I think nothing will ever replace a statement of a full album. You go into a studio, you work hard, the order of the record, and if people have the time and the energy and the patience, they'll put that on and listen to it complete. But it's a different time where we also have to think about which is the single from the record, and does this stand alone, and can someone just listen to this one track, and does it make sense? And so there are other things to consider as the time has evolved. But I try to just come to everything from a point of let's do the best we can on this specific output.
Well, we look forward to your future records, your future recordings, your future Live from Emmet's Place episodes, and thank you so much for swinging by the station on your trip to Seattle.
Okay, thanks so much, Abe.
Thanks so much to Emmet Cohen and his trio with Phillip Norris and Kyle Poole at the bass and drums. You'll find Cohen leading 3 different trio sessions in our studio archives, as well as a performance with bassist Christian McBride's Tip City. Thanks to Studio X engineers Brian Moynihan and Mo Provencher, video producer Parker Blome, thanks to promotions director Brenda Goldstein-Young, and all of you listening in. Find our studio session archives at knkx.org with more content on our YouTube channel. I'm Abe Beeson. Thanks for listening.